Welcome to the Capital Budget System training for local units of government. We will first review the capital budget process and timeline, and then we will demonstrate how to use the capital budget system. The purpose of the capital budget system is to collect and publish capital budget requests and recommendations for consideration by the legislature. The capital budget system will support all aspects of capital budget development, including the governor's decision-making process, tracking legislative positions, and will be able to publish enacted capital budget information. The report of your capital budget requests that will be published on July 15th and submitted to the legislature will be available in CBS in June. This is an overview of the capital budget system project. The capital budget process has already begun. Capital budget instructions have been released. On May 4th, the capital budget system will go live. All users, including local users, will be able to enter their requests into the capital budget system starting on this date. By June 12th, all preliminary requests are due in the capital budget system. All requests must come through this system. Preliminary requests will be submitted to the legislature on July 15th. MMB will be conducting site visits and meetings and gathering information beginning in June, going all the way through September. Capital budget system will be open for final request submission between August and October. On October 16th, the final requests are due to be submitted in the capital budget system. On January 15th, 2016, the governor will release the bonding proposal to the legislature. Instructions for submitting a capital budget request, including definitions and required fields, are available on the MMB website. Instructions for local units of government will be found under the 2016 Capital Budget Preparation heading. This is the URL where these instructions can be found. Capital budget instructions will be posted under this heading. This is a brief overview of the capital budget system. We will provide a more detailed look at the capital budget system and how to use the capital budget system later in this training. The capital budget system is a web-based tool that is accessed through the statewide systems administrative portal. In order to navigate through the capital budget system, you will save and continue through the 7 steps of submitting a request. There are a variety of ways that users are able to navigate through the different screens required for submitting a request. Users are going to be able to save and continue through the 7 steps to submitting a request, use a navigation on the left side of the screen, or use breadcrumbs across the top of the screens. Be sure to save often as the system times out after 20 minutes of inactivity. There is a Save button located at the top of the screen and at the bottom of the screen to save and move on to a different screen. There are 3 different submission statuses. There's the draft status, the preliminary status, and the final status. In the draft status, users may edit and view their request. When a user is satisfied with their request and selects Submit, the capital budget request will then be in preliminary status. This is due by June 12th. After MMB completes the review, the final capital budget requests are due to be submitted on October 16th. All deadlines are in anticipation of publication on July 15th and on January 15th. Any system questions or issues should be directed to the Swift Help Desk at 651-201-8100, option number 2. If you have any capital budget policy questions, contact Alicia Cowell, the Capital Budget Coordinator, at 651-259-3782, or you can send her an email at alicia.cowell@state.mn.us. We will now demonstrate how to submit a request in the capital budget system. To access the capital budget system, go to the administrative portal and use your assigned user ID and password. From here, click on the Capital Budget System link in the left-hand navigation. This will bring you into the capital budget system. The home page will list announcements throughout the capital budget system process. Select Capital Budget Request Steps on the left-hand navigation menu to open up a page that provides a brief overview of each of the major screens in the capital budget system. The Create a Request screen is where you will start to create your budget request. The Project Overview screen allows users to enter all of their narrative information on a capital budget request. This includes project descriptions, rationale, and construction dates. This page also allows users to upload and describe any resolutions of support received for their projects. The Funding Sources page allows users to add all funding sources committed, pending, and requested for the capital budget request. Funding sources include agency operating budgets, federal funds, local government funds, or private funds. Users complete the project cost directions form and then are directed to either a detailed project cost form or a summary project cost form. If a user answers any of the questions on the project cost directions form with yes, users will be directed to the detailed project cost form. If all of the answers are no, users will be directed to the summary level project costs form. The statutory requirements screen asks users to respond to 12 questions regarding the statutory requirements that must be met for capital bonding projects. Users must answer each question before continuing. Users are expected to review all data entered for a request. After all of the data is determined to be accurate, users may click Submit Request to formally submit their preliminary and final capital budgets. We will now walk through creating a capital budget request. You can either select the Create a Request link on the Capital Budget Request Steps page, or at any point in time, select the Create a Request link in the left-hand navigation menu. The request year and entity will automatically populate based on your login information. If this is the first time you have entered a request in the capital budget system, there will be no requests found displayed in your list of requests. To create a new request, simply type in the request name in the New Project Name field and click Create a Request. After selecting Create a Request, you will be taken to the Project Overview page. Each project must be assigned a rank based on the agency's priority order as required by Minnesota Statute 16A11 Subdivision 3A. Local units of government will not select anything from the Facilities or Campus drop-down menu. When you select your city, the county will automatically populate. If your city is in multiple counties and it does not automatically populate to the correct county, you may simply select that county from the drop-down menu. Enter the zip code and the contact name and information. Select the category from the drop-down menu that describes your request. Asset preservation is defined in Statute 16B 307. The land acquisition option applies to the use of funds to acquire land, easements, options, or land with buildings or other improvements. Please note that the purchase of options, while they may correctly be included on the project cost form, are not a bondable expense and must be paid from general cash fund. Major construction projects are defined in Statute 16B 335, Subdivision 1. Use the multiple categories project category if the project fits in more than one of these other categories. Use the renovation and renewal category for projects that are not just preserving existing assets, but are also renovating and renewing facilities, a different use or a different purpose. This is a category for state programs that are appropriated GO bonds that are then granted out to local units of government for capital investment projects. Use the other category if none of these categories accurately describe your project. Local units of government will always select a project-specific request from the State Program or Project-Specific Request drop-down menu. The State Program is for state agencies that have grant programs. I will now be demonstrating how to copy and paste from a Word document into the system. So I have my Word document. Copy, right-click, copy, go back into the system, and I will paste my description in the short description text field. The short description should summarize your project request in 2 sentences. The project rationale, project narrative, and other considerations fields are all text fields in which you can enter text or paste text into and format. For this example, I will be pasting text. I can format text in this box using the buttons at the very top. Text can be numbered or bulleted. Your project narrative should describe in detail the project, including your scope, total cost, and key funding sources. Under Other Considerations, you'll want to list anything else that decision makers should know about this project. Again, I'm going to copy and paste this text from a Word document into the text field. Continue to complete each text field as you go through the form. In the description of private entity occupancy and use field, please describe who will be using the facility and if this facility will be leased. In the public purpose field, you will describe the public purpose served by this project. The Impact on Operating Budgets field is required under Statute 16A11, Subdivision 5. Summarize the project's impact on the agency's operating budget over the upcoming 6-year period in this section. This section should provide a brief narrative only, since specific costs will be identified on the project cost screen. For the anticipated encumbrance date, local units of government should select the anticipated start date of the project. The anticipated midpoint of construction field is for construction projects that will span multiple years. A midpoint of construction should not be entered for asset preservation or state program requests. The anticipated end date should demonstrate the anticipated end date of the project. If this project is phased, please use the Project Phase drop-down menu to select the phase in which the project is in. In the description of previous appropriations field, enter the year, amount, and purpose of any previous appropriations related to this request. If you are requesting funds for a program established in statute, enter the legal citation in the statutory program citation field. Select the bondable activity from the drop-down menu. Asset preservation is defined in Statute 16B-307. Construction is defined in Statute 16B-335, Subdivision 1. The use of funds to acquire land, easements, options, or land with buildings or other improvements is land acquisition. If the request fits into more than one of these categories, use the multiple bondable activities. If your request is not covered by these categories listed, use the other bondable activity. Pre-design is the stage in the development of a project during which the purpose, scope, cost, and schedule of the complete project are defined. Design is the state in the development of a project during which schematic, design development, and contract documents are produced. The renovation or major repair bondable activity is defined in Statute 16B-335, Subdivision 1. State programs that are appropriated GO bonds that are then granted out to local units of government for capital investment projects will use the state program bondable activity selection. Select the project type that describes your request. If the request fits more than one type, select multiple. If the project type isn't listed, select other. Select the bill or legislative committee area for your request. For local units of government, select the bill area that covers your preferred granting state agency. If an independent assessment has been conducted on your facility, such as facility condition assessment through the Department of Administration, and a condition index has been assigned, select the condition index from the drop-down menu. Local units of government are required to complete the Resolution of Support section of this screen. Select yes or no as to whether or not the resolution passed, and in order to add a resolution, select Add. Enter in the text field the appropriate information for each field, and select Save. You may comment on your resolution in the text field and upload the resolution file by selecting the Browse button, finding your document, and selecting the Upload Resolution button to the right of the Browse button. This will refresh the page and your resolution file will be uploaded. When you have completed all fields and are satisfied with the information, you can either click Save and Exit to exit this form, or to click Save and Continue to continue on to the next screen and continue entering your request in the capital budget system. This is the Funding Sources screen where you will enter the amount of state funding that you are requesting. Local units of government are required to provide non-state matching funds as a condition of receiving the state capital appropriation. As outlined in Statute 16A-86, Subdivision 4, the recipient may not receive the capital appropriation until the recipient has a commitment for or receipt of matching funds. Non-state funding may include federal, local, and private funds. All sources of funding that will pay for the total project cost must be included on this screen. Enter the amount in thousands requested in each year for GO bonds as well as other state sources under the request amount on the table. To do this, select Edit to enter how much is being requested from the general obligation bonds. And then you type in across the board how much money you are requesting. When you have finished, click Save. If you are requesting state funds from sources other than the general obligation bonds, you may click on Add a Row and select from the drop-down menu the source of which you would like to request. Select Save when you have finished all of your changes. In the funds already committed to the project table, add all funds for prior and future years that are already committed to this project. Again, select from the drop-down menu and enter in your numbers. You may either tab across to the next box or you may click. Select Save. On the Funds Pending table, enter any funds that have not yet been committed to the project. Again, select from the drop-down list the funds that you would like to show and enter your numbers by either tabbing or clicking in each box. Click Save when you are comfortable with the changes that have been made. Your total funds pending, total funding sources related to the request, and matching funds percentage will auto-populate. You also have the option on this form to add comments on your prior year funding, funding request, and sources of funds. These are text fields. When you have completed this form, you may either save and exit save and return to the previous page, which was the project overview, or you may click Save and Continue to move on to the next screen and continue working on your capital budget request. We are going to click Save and Continue. This is the project cost direction screen. Before you can enter information about your project's costs, you must first respond to the questions on the project cost directions screen. A yes answer to any of the questions will direct you to the detailed cost screen. If all questions are answered no, then you will be directed to the summary cost screen. For local units of government, the first question will be no. This is not a statewide or regional program. It is important to know that once you click Save and then OK, you cannot go back. Please ensure that all questions are answered correctly, as you will not be able to return to this screen. As previously mentioned, if all questions are answered no, you will be directed to the summary cost screen. I'm going to answer no to these questions and click Save and Continue to show you what this looks like. You will be reminded that once the project cost direction screen has been saved, it cannot be changed. Click on OK to continue. This is an example of the project cost summary form. This form is very similar to the project cost details screen that we will complete. For this example, I'm going to select yes for the next two questions in order to demonstrate what the project cost details screen looks like. I'm going to click Save and Continue, and again it's going to prompt me to make sure that I wish to save my changes. I'm going to click OK, and this brings me to the project cost details screen. To enter any information, you can click in the white box and type in your number in thousands. Any field grayed out is an auto-calculated field. If you wish to see numbers from prior years, you can click on the Show Prior Years button. If you wish to hide this information, the Show Prior Years button has now changed to the Hide Prior Years button. You can select that once more. Once you have entered all of the information for your property acquisition, pre-design fees, design fees, project management, construction, relocation expenses, and other fees, you can move on to the next table. This is the inflation table, and it is an auto-calculated table. If inflation was already included in the costs you entered in the project cost table, enter the amount by fiscal year and the total cost will be adjusted properly. The amount entered in the inflation table will be subtracted from the system calculated inflation amount. The total project costs, total funding sources related to the request, and costs less funding are also auto-calculated. The total funding sources pulls from the previous screen, and the total costs must match the total funding sources. Less funding should show zeros for all years. For local units of government, if any new or additional state operating dollars will be requested along with this project, note the amount per year in the operating budget impact field. Required under Statute 16A-11, Subdivision 5, local units of government must identify any new or additional state operating dollars that will be requested for this project. This section should provide a brief narrative only, as specific costs per year are identified on the project cost screen. Related to your response above, enter the amount of FTEs that will be added or reduced as a result of this project in the Operating Budget Impact FTE row. When you are satisfied with the information that you have provided on this table, you can select Save and Exit to exit the form entirely, Save and Previous to return to the previous funding sources screen, or Save and Continue to move on to the next screen and continue working on your capital budget request. We are going to select Save and Continue. This is the statutory requirements page. On this page, users indicate which statutes apply once your project is approved and is in a state appropriation bill. Links to the statutory language are in each section. For example, for question number 1, is this major construction as defined in Statute 16B-335, you can click on the hyperlink of the statute number and be taken to the language on the reviser's website. Be sure to answer yes, no, or unsure to every question. If you attempt to move on without answering a question, you will not be able to. Users should reference the capital budget instructions to better understand the statutory requirements and their responsibility in complying with them. Again, we can click Save and Exit, Save and Previous, or Save and Continue, and we are going to select Save and Continue. On this screen, users are able to upload any documents to support their capital budget request. Local units of government will not submit an agency profile or an agency strategic plan. In order to upload your document, click on Browse, find your desired document, and select the Upload Optional Document hyperlink. Users will be able to upload PowerPoints, PDFs, Excel documents, and Word documents. Once you have uploaded all of your documents, click Next. Clicking the Next button brings you to the Project Overview screen, where you can review your capital budget request. Once you are satisfied with your capital budget request, you can scroll all the way to the bottom of the screen and select Submit Request. Once you have submitted your request, this signals to MMB that the preliminary submission is ready for the June 15th publication. So we're going to click on Submit Request, select OK, and you will be taken back to the Create a Request screen, where you can see that your request is now in the preliminary submitted status. Users will be allowed back into the capital budget system in August to make any final updates to their capital budget request. Once finished, they must submit the request again by October 16th, and the request will then be in the final submission status. When the request is in final submission status, the user will no longer be able to make changes. After final submission, it will be included for consideration in the Governor's 2016 capital budget.